Hey, this is Steve, and welcome to today's blog. Actually, today I'm doing a video blog because I've had a lot of requests from people saying that sometimes they like to take all this information in, but sometimes the reads are a bit heavy. Could I now and again do a video blog or an audio blog, which is more like a podcast? But it's okay. I'm going to do the video blog today, and it's probably apt because I'm talking about new technology and I'm talking about AI and AI in health tech, med tech. Two parts to that conversation, and I'm going to try and get through this quick. Remember, I'm not a data scientist. I am a commercial guy who is intrigued by a lot of the technology that's coming. Two parts to the conversation. There's a part that's about the health tech, med tech side of AI, and I'm going to try and explain some of the stuff on that. And then the second part is the personal side for you on medtech, which will be at the end, which is my advice to you as a medtech professional on how you can make sure that you don't get left behind, because this revolution is coming. It's here, it's now. And I can't stress strong enough to you that you need to be thinking about this. And you may be like me, where I was 12 to 18 months ago, thinking, this is all a bit of hype, it's all a bit of bullshit. AI's been around, a term bantered around for a long time. Why on earth should I care about it and believe about it now? Well, there has been a revolution that's happened in the last 12 to 18 months because of several things. One of them is to do with the fact just that the GPU technology from NVIDIA has got better, so we can run these models, these AI models, on hardware and get amazing results back. There's entire data centers being made that, just are massively crunching through all this information. Second thing is you've had companies like OpenAI that have gone off and worked out how to actually build the software behind this that makes these AI models, large language models, small language models, video models. And then there's been a gold rush of investment into this space to build these AI models. It could be a bit of a bubble in terms of, from a consumer side, because people have got to make money out of this somehow, and these are very expensive. And even though OpenAI is losing a lot of money every day, so there's a lot of skepticism been about it. But what I can tell you is there's a convergence of technologies, and in healthcare, we've also got NVIDIA have really focused in on healthcare and how they can bring their technology into healthcare to make sure that we keep up with the AI. And healthcare has a lot to gain from AI. I'm not going to go into it too much now, but you need to go away and understand what AI is. I mean, everyone thinks that AI is this. You press a button, a system wakes up and it's super smart and intelligent, more intelligent than a human, and goes off and just thinks like a human being. Well, that's actually very different than the reality of what it is. A lot of these things are just like fancy names for algorithms, which are just fancy names for uh, putting like an equation together of things that add up. So don't get bamboozled too much by the terms. You can keep AI as a big bucket. And generally, where we're at today is we have things like generative AI. You'll hear this term, which is where AI makes things. So, for example, I take a text prompt and it will turn it and generate generative into a video. So I put the text prompt in. I want a picture of a sausage dog. And again, you've got to be careful how you prompt this, because otherwise, this is what happens. And you end up with a picture of a dog made out of a sausage, which is funny, but maybe wasn't what I intended in the medical side of things. What I can then do is generate from that. I can take that picture, upload that picture into a video system and say, make me a video of this sausage dog. And I take that still image and it animates it to make it look like real life, which looks like this. And you end up with a really quite funny, cutesy meme sausage dog. So again, what this leads to is, and I'll talk about later, which is prompting, making sure you put the right prompt to get the right thing out. Because if I actually wanted a sausage dog, as in the type of dog, sausage dog, I would have to say, get me a picture of a sausage dog, but I don't mean a dog made out of sausage. I mean the breed of a sausage dog. That would be kind of how you'd have to prompt it in a different way. Otherwise, shit in, shit out, right? So what you need to learn with AI is that how you prompt, and we're going to talk about that. But there's generative AI, and then there's AI agents, and the agents just means that they do things for you. So either in software land, so you say, go book me a flight on Alitalia to go from Rome to Boston, and the software goes off on your behalf. books it, puts your credit card, puts all your details in, books the flight for you, comes back and said, here's your ticket. That's an agentic AI that does it. And there's lots of those being built now. And as you look at a lot of the companies that are out there, they're adding agentic AIs onto this, not just chatbots that, replace customer service, but you can say, go and book me something, and it will go off and do things for you. And you can set up these stacks to run your life, which we'll talk a little bit about stacks later, which is where I can have a series of agents that when in my inbox an email comes in, it could act on several of those things. So bad example, but I'll give you one. Somebody says to me, we would like to come and appear at our Congress. Well, I could make it an agent that says, any Congress that's in Boston, you need to go and do these agentic things. And it will go and book me a flight. And one agent will go and book me a hotel. The other one will book me a taxi. The other one will go and make sure that I've got all my documents up to date. And they'll go off as a group of agents and they will act like a travel agent, but there'll be an AI travel agent, and they'll go and book it me and they'll come back and they'll say, hey, Steve, here's all your tickets and everything. And would you like me to put that in your calendar? And I say, yes. And it builds me a thing in my calendar. That's AI agents. But there's also physical world agents, which is a little bit like your home kit and your Alexa. Hey, Alexa, turn on my TV. That's where software is physically acting in the physical world to do something on your behalf. And that's going to happen in healthcare, where we're going to say, hey, Moon Surgical, great example. They've got an agentic AI in there. The camera looks at the scene, realizes it's a lap chole, and the agent within the system says to the arms, move the arms into this position, which is perfect for a lap chole. So you're going to get agentic AI happening as well, physical AI stuff happening in the world. Then you're going to get to these things called collaborative AIs, which is where you want to go for consensus, because again, an AI can be wrong. They can have things called hallucinations and they can be wrong. So, you want to make a clinical diagnostic. You don't want just one hallucinogenic AI saying, yeah, this is fine. That's not cancer. What you'd want to do is send that off to multiple AI models, get them to say, what's the consensus? And 4 out of 5 of them say, yeah, this is definitely a cancer. You can probably be more reliant upon the fact that 4 or 5 different models have looked at your data, come back with a consensus. They've talked amongst themselves of why they've got to that consensus, and they'll feed that back to the radiologist and say, 4 out of 5 of the systems say this. The one that didn't thought because of this, this, and this, you should know that. But generally, the consensus is that's a tumor. So that's how it can work in healthcare as well. So in terms of healthcare, it's getting into everything, because NVIDIA have done some things in their healthcare technology. They've done things where today a lot of AI would have to be pumped to a cloud. It would have to go to a big set of servers, do a lot of crunching, and then the result would come back. Not very real time, would be off processed, come back either post-operative or way after the fact. Whereas now what we've moved to is that we've moved into real-time AI interpretation. So what you end up with is that you end up with what they call edge technology. So that's bringing all that power closer and closer to the patient. Sometimes it's in a server room, but now with things like holoscan sensor bridge, and I'll put up a holoscan sensor bridge on here. You're bringing that actual GPU technology right into small boards that sit on the robot or on the device, and they'll get smaller and smaller. And you could, for example, with that, you take a vision feed from a camera, and instead of going through a computer that works out, it goes straight to the GPUs with AI models on it, and it works out the AI, the scene interpretation, gives you that information back immediately, locally, with no going up. So that means it's in real time and it's on the fly processing. That allows things like perioperative image analysis. So for things like colonoscopy or for laparoscopy, you'll be able to actually in real time have the AI tell you what it's seeing and give you that information back. And in real time, work on an AI agent that will allow you to, as you're in the operating room pushing the Moon Surgical Maestro to the table, it's saying, oh, this is a lap chole, and it'll set the robot arm up for you. Then you'll have lots of AI agents working together in healthcare, where they'll go off and do things. So one will go off to the medical health records and it'll go and pull some information back. It would give that information to another AI agent that would then act upon it. And you end up with 4 or 5 different agents doing different things that they're capable of, bringing all that information back, feeding the information between themselves, and then giving outputs to the human to help them in an AI agentic way, but as a group of AI agents. They're going to work all together. And that's what we're getting, these clusters of AI agents working together. So I don't mean to be scaring people who don't know this. What I would recommend is that you go to something like an AI2M meeting, or you go to SRS and go to the AI, or something like NBT with Eric Wilson for Sages, or like Aussie AI Days. You can't put your head in the sand, though. It's here and it's now and it's real. And this technology is flooding into devices as we speak. So we've already got lots of robots have got them in there. You've got Intuitive. They've got their NVIDIA in there. You've got Virtual Incision. You've got Moon. Lots of people have got this embedded AI capability. And now they're working out how they're going to use it, and then working out how to get through the regulatory. But already the FDA has passed hundreds and hundreds of devices that have got AI components in them. So it's not tomorrow, it's now, it's here, and it's real. And again, if you're a MedTech company, we've already flipped over into TechMed, and you need to be thinking about how do you make smart AI connected devices and agentic devices, because that's the future for the next 5 years. And it's accelerating at a speed that you wouldn't believe. So within that, what that's also going to allow is things that, because we've got real-time processing, real-time interpretation, real-time on the system AI, we are going to go towards more and more complex automation. So robots are going to have automatic steps, and the AI will be able to work it out, like knot tying. And Johns Hopkins did a beautiful demonstration of how they had models that were interpreting how humans tie knots and then replicating that. It's not coding to tie knots, it's working it out, and it's making the movements to replicate the way that humans do that. So you're going to see that with automations that come, and then that's going to be the slow and steady move towards various types of autonomy. And autonomy and automations are slightly different. Autonomy is where the thing does it itself. So a good example of that is Andromeda Surgical, which is doing HoLEP for benign prostate hyperplasia. And what they're doing with Andromeda Surgical is that it takes the scan, and then the system interprets the scan for the enlarged prostate, and it works out where's going to be the best place to laser that from the inside. And it does this navigated pathway. Navigation's a big thing as well in robotics and AI. It works out the navigated pathway that it's going to plan and map where it's going to fire the laser, how it's going to fire the laser, takes out the variability of the human, does it based upon data, the best outcome. And then what it does is, under supervision, i.e. there's a doctor next to it who inserts the device into the patient. But what it then does is the doctor hands over control to the robot, but sits there and makes sure that nothing goes wrong. And the robot will autonomously take that pathway that it's said, that navigation that it's worked out, and it will work backwards, and it will do the HoLEP treatment autonomously under supervision. The eventual thing is that we'll get to levels of pure autonomy where there will be no human intervention, but I don't think that's coming just yet, and I'm not sure we even want that. So you're going to see this in health tech, from diagnostics, from things like AI-based eye tests out in the community. You're going to see it from molecular therapies being developed. So mRNA vaccines use AI to take people's personalized genetic material, work out the best way that you could create a gene sequence, put that into an mRNA vaccine, and then deliver that so that you've got personalized medicine, personalized therapies that are going to be delivered. And there'll be pathways where the AI will look at your scans, throw off to different AIs, they'll work in unison together and say, look, we've determined that the best pathway for this patient is that they have this non-invasive therapy first. If that doesn't work, then they go on to this invasive therapy, and the invasive therapy would then go in conjunction with this biologic therapy, etc. And we determined that the best outcome would be this. And it will do that in consensus. It will go off to several models that will all look at that as if it was a group of clinicians, and they will sit down and they will say, this is the best pathway. And 4 out of 5 of us think that that's the best pathway. So therefore the consensus, they'll pass that back to the humans and say, good, are we good to go? And we would then follow that AI consensus, and we would deliver that therapy to the patient. So this is the sort of way that it's going, and that's here and now, and it's coming into everything. You're combining that with robotics. There's all the robotics systems out there that I'm very passionate about. If you're not having some form of AI that's going to be working in there as either data interpretation, helping the user with information, like phone a friend, or taking over agentically and doing assistive automative steps, setup, for example, or procedural parts of the steps. You are going to be so out of the game that your product will just be redundant. There are many sensors coming in things, even to get things like you can have smart drapes very soon that will be able to do a whole set of things on smart drapes or smart syringes, and they'll all be connected and they'll all work in this giant data ecosystem empowered by AI in the middle of it. And all of this will connect and work out, and we will work out ways not to replace humans in the pathway, but to augment humans in the pathway. Very important that AI is used to augment and not to replace, because shit in, shit out, and you need good people at the base of it. But how do we supercharge everybody? So you take the people who are not as good as a clinician and make them as good as the best clinician through augmented support, through AI and systems and data. That's what it's about for me. It's not about replacing people. It's about augmenting people so that we raise the level of healthcare for everybody everywhere. And that's the mission of places like the Mayo Clinic that I saw at Einstein Frontiers last week. They're creating these platforms and these data sets that are capable to bring healthcare to everybody everywhere to an equal standard. And that's really what AI can do. Talking of data sets, we need to make sure there's global data sets, and we also need to make sure there's synthetic data sets. And you go away and look at this a little bit. But, does a Brazilian patient's data transfer to an African patient's data? Does it transfer to a US patient's data? Is it the same as a Japanese patient's data? And if not, then we have to make sure the data sets, so that when you apply AI that's been trained in Japan, it doesn't give you some weird result that doesn't work in, say, Brazil. So there's different ways that Mayo Clinic is looking at things like this. And then to train these models, you need massive data sets, and often in surgery, the data is not big enough. So there's something called synthetic data, which is where you take real world data and then you get AI to make variants of that, so that it makes millions and millions of data sets. It puts all the different variables in different configurations and then trains upon that data. So there's things like that coming. And again, I'm not meaning to scare you. I'm trying to open people's minds a little bit, that you have to think about this and you have to get prepared for this and you have to be involved in this. But healthcare is going to change. It is changing right now. In the last 12 months, I've seen such a vast push to this already. And if you think it's still 10 years away, I want you to wake up a little bit and go and do a bit more research. So that's what I want to say on the healthcare side of it. And if you're a medtech company, as I say, become a TechMed company or die. And I think we're seeing that already, that the big companies are realizing that it's hard for them to transition across because this is so different. You have to literally throw everything away that you had in the past, and it's kind of every day is a new start. And on that, as an individual, and now I talk to the individuals about the individual use of AI, not really, the company in the health tech side, but the individual use of AI. And I talked about this a little bit after I left the conference in Brazil. Everything that you owned and that made you an important asset in the past is now going to become redundant. So, the fact that you are an amazingly creative marketing person is actually irrelevant, because what it means is all of that creativity, anyone who can prompt very well into an AI can get that same creativity back out of it, and better and faster. You know, and we can generate stuff that you couldn't do before. We needed graphic artists to make an anatomically correct thing. It was a graphic artist would have to sit there and do it. That's gone. You just prompt it in and the AI will do it. And again, it's not to replace them. A good graphic artist will know how to prompt that in the best way. So again, here's an eye that I did, very simple anatomical eye. And there are several companies out there like Grendel Games, who became Grendel Medical, who are doing amazing things with generative AI to make anatomical structures. And I'm going to do a podcast just on this with them. They've agreed to do it, where the future of medical education is not going to be the classic way that we do graphics. It's going to be AI variations on the fly, where the student can basically set up any way that they want and will be educated, and they'll be different every time they come to that training. Every student will have a very different way that they get trained, just as you would with human anatomy, that it's different in every patient that you train. So we are going to see that. So if your skill sets in the past, whatever you based your skill sets, if you're a clinical trainer, if you're a salesperson, if you're a marketing person, if you're an engineer, whatever you are in this industry, whatever your skill set base was, you need to augment that very fast with AI. And I talk about this thing where, you know, there are tons of AI tools out there, and depending on what you do, if it being coding, if it's being design, if it's to do with planning, whatever it is, you need to find the right tool stack out there that you can use on a daily basis. And be that standard AI models or agentic AI models. For example, you know, if you are a creative designer, you need to be doing Sora, Canva, Wix, Runway ML, all of these different ones, Kling, whatever it be. You need to be on top of that. If you're a creative marketing person, if you're doing copy review, so copy text in your marketing, you need to be working with the large language models and getting the GPTs to help you to refine the messaging, not create the messaging totally, but like you could say to a GPT, give me 15 ideas. You still have to use your brain to be in the middle of it, but augment it. So you don't sit there and have to do 15 ideas. It will throw 15 ideas. You, oh, those five are nice. And then you prompt it to get better. Quick thing, because I've got literally 5 minutes left on this. Prompting. Whatever you learned in the past, one of the things you have to learn today is prompting. Go away and look up prompting, how you prompt. You mustn't use AI models like you're using Google search. Google search is usually a 10-word little thing that you say and it goes off and finds it. That's not a prompt. A prompt is giving a very detailed command set to the model to give you really detailed back what you ask. If you give it a basic, show me a picture of a dog, or you know, do me a video of a dog, you could get anything out of that. If you really wanted to say, for example, show me a surgical robot in a laparoscopic pose in a darkened theater, blah, 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 you'll get that exactly out. You can't say, do me a picture of a surgical robot. You'll end up with a humanoid thing with weird instruments in it. You have to say, base it upon current robots that are out there in the market today, blah, blah, blah. And the prompt can be a huge paragraph. The lighting comes from here. It's in a darkened thing. There are two surgeons in there. One has, you have to, this is skill that you have to learn in the prompting. And the sequence of the prompting is very important for these models because they digest the information in a certain way. And your grammatical structure of that sentence and that phrase and that paragraph has to be right, because if you get it slightly wrong, it will hallucinate and it won't interpret what you're saying well. You've got to be very precise with what you want. And again, what's really good if you go things like Sora, you can see the images that are made and you can go and look at the prompts that were used and it will give you an indication. Same in ChatGPT. You can get ChatGPT to write you prompts, tell you how to prompt. If I want to use a certain AI, what's the best way for me to prompt? If I want to use ChatGPT, how's the best way for me to prompt you? Can you write me a prompt for yourself? So learn about prompting, learn about the different models, learn about what's coming, because if you are not part of this, you are going to be left behind. If you're looking for other jobs in other sectors, you can use AI in really clever ways. So I want to move from cardiovascular to orthopedic. You no longer need to have to go and ask a friend of yours in orthopedic. You can get something like Google LM to go away and you can throw loads of information into Google Notebook LM and say, make me a quick podcast on the orthopedic industry. And it'll take all that information, digest it, and give you a very digestible overview of the orthopedic industry, or vice versa. If you're making your CV or resume, and gone are the days where you do your, oh, this is my CV for 2025, and I'll send that out to all the same companies. Whoa, we are not in that world anymore. We are in a world where, because of ChatGPTs, you can get that to, first of all, review your resume, and you can say to it, look for gaps. I want to go and get a job in Intuitive. Okay, and Intuitive hires this way, etc. Can you go and find out their hiring criteria? Can you go and find out the profile of people they do? Look at my CV and you upload it into the Chat GPT. Look at my CV. Can you tell me the strengths and weaknesses? Can you write me the CV in a way that would be very attractive for me to get a marketing job in Europe for intuitive? Can you help me to write this and structure this CV this way? Can you help me to write a letter? Very specific. I want to be in the marketing department for intuitive or for Medtronic or whatever in this way, in this field, in this sector. Can you really help me to make a really outstanding letter in my voice, learning my voice, make it comic, make it slightly, British humor for me. And can you give me a starting point for that? And I'll give you a starting point. That doesn't mean you have to switch your brain off and just send it. You've still got to interpret it. You've still got to be the human in the loop, but let that augment you. And you go, oh, that's a good idea. I didn't think to write it that way. And then send it. You should be sending personalized, customized CVs and letters to every single job that you go to, where you've had the GPT do the research with you, not for you, with you. You've interpreted it and you've created a really good CV or approach letter that's really based on that. And you can research all the people that are in there. You can go and get their LinkedIn ads and say, tell me what really, tell me their career path. Tell me, you can do so much research. So let the AI augment you. But if you are working in our medtech industry and you are not today using AI stacks, and stack just means all the different tools that you can use one after another and use them with each other. If you're a graphics person in a marketing department, use a chat GPT to create you a prompt to do an image in Sora, and then you use that image in Sora to build you a presentation in Canva with your help, not just do it and press the button, because otherwise that just doesn't work. But use this as augmented superpowers to make your workflow faster, more efficient, and better. Because if you don't do it, I guarantee you there's 10 other people out there that are doing it. So to all my friends, my colleagues, to the healthcare professionals, you really need to embrace this because it's not distant. It's here now. And I've been very lucky to be exposed to this, and I'm embracing it. I'm changing my pitch of what I talk about a little bit. You'll hear more and more AI. I'm also working in other industries, like I've said, the film industry and the music industry, and they are already ahead of us in healthcare in terms of what they're doing. Just go and go to Google and Google AI movies, or go to the site we built, syntheticframe.com, and you can go and see examples of the movies and the speed that it's changing. But if you go to Google, really interesting thing you can do, go and look at AI short movie, and then set the timing thing for 6 months ago, and then do the same for 3 months ago, and then do something that's been uploaded in the last few days. It will blow your mind the level of progress that has been made in terms of lip syncing, sound, ability for continuation, the way the characters look, the reality of the people that they look in there. It's just amazing. And you think about what that's going to do in healthcare. So when we think about the simulators that are going to come today, which are going to be fairly basic in 6 months, with the AI generation, it's not about reprogramming them. They will use different models behind them, and the graphics will just become more and more real. The physics will get better and better and better. So all of this is coming at high speed, and I do implore you all to, on the company side, become TechMed. Really sit down with your management teams. If you're a startup, if you're not putting AI at the heart of what you're doing in your startup and making these smart startups, you are not going to find any funding. If you are making product, make sure that product is smart, AI connected, and just ready for the future. If you are an individual, make sure that you have really understood what AI means for your business and what it means for you as an individual in terms of how you interact with the world as a business professional. And please don't think this is all bullshit and it's going to be years and years away. My eyes have been opened in the last 12 months, and I'm right in the middle of this. The stuff that's here now is amazing. What's coming down the pipe in literally a few in a few months is going to be even more mind-bending. So that was what I wanted to do today. My time is up. I hope that's useful. I hope this format was good as well, and I will put this on my website. And if anyone's got any questions, do send me some questions about AI, and I will do some lives, and we can talk about this one-on-one. So that's today's blog. See you soon.